foolishness that you felt like was no big deal at one particular time has blossomed into a whole forest of big deal. Because my husband has all over the internet about having sex with his wife with cancer.
No one saw this coming. Not like this. For years, people believed they understood Kimmi and Maurice. They weren't the loudest couple, not the most dramatic, and definitely not the ones constantly trending for chaos. They were steady, grounded, the kind of relationship that looked like it could survive anything. But now, everything has changed. Kimmi has finally ended it all. And Maurice's emotional reaction, it's left fans completely stunned. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not after everything they had been through. Not after the battles, the healing, the promises. But behind the smiles, the quiet strength, and the picture-perfect moments, something had been breaking for a long time. And now, that quiet breaking has turned into a final decision that nobody can undo. What really pushed Kimmi to walk away? And why is Maurice reacting in a way that has people questioning everything they thought they knew about him? Because this isn't just a breakup story. This is about emotional exhaustion, silent pain, and the moment someone decides they can't carry the weight anymore.
It's hella disrespectful, and it doesn't protect me. And now I have to answer questions from my mother?
Yeah, I didn't think about the collateral damage. To me, it was like, if I just apologize to my wife.
And this time, Kimmi didn't just speak, she acted. For a long time, Kimmi was seen as the heart of everything. She wasn't the type to raise her voice or demand attention. She showed love through patience, through understanding, through simply being there when everyone else fell apart. That's what made people admire her so much. She had a way of holding things together, even when everything around her felt like it was slipping. Whether it was family, friendships, or her marriage, Kimmi carried it all with a kind of quiet grace that made it look easy. But it wasn't easy. Behind that calm energy was a woman constantly giving, constantly adjusting, constantly making space for everyone else's needs. And over time, that kind of giving starts to take something from you. It chips away at your energy, your peace, your sense of self.
Listen,
I love this.
I can clean up okay. This looks really nice.
You have nothing to do with this.
No, I helped select you. I was like, hey, give Lakita a try.
Maurice, on the other hand, was always focused, driven, the kind of man who believed that success could fix anything. He worked hard, built his life with intention, and pushed forward no matter what stood in his way. At first, that ambition looked like strength. It looked like stability. It looked like the kind of partner who would always provide and protect. And Kimmi believed in that. She stood beside him, supported his dreams, and trusted that their bond would grow stronger through everything. But here's where things started to shift. What looked like dedication slowly turned into distance. The late nights, the constant focus on work, the emotional unavailability, it didn't happen overnight. It crept in slowly, quietly, almost unnoticed at first.
However, listen to what I'm saying. I don't put it past people. So I'm not one to say, oh, it's never gonna happen in my life. It ain't that's not me. Well, nobody. You could tell me tomorrow he cheated. I'd be like, that stuff doesn't surprise me.
But Kimmi felt it. She felt the conversations getting shorter, the connection becoming weaker, the moments that once felt full of love starting to feel empty. And still, she stayed, because that's who she was. She believed in commitment, in fighting for love, in giving people the chance to grow. But sometimes, the more you give, the more invisible you become. Then life hit them with something neither of them could ignore. Kimmi's health battle changed everything. Suddenly, it wasn't about business, success, or future plans. It was about survival, about strength, about showing up in the most real and vulnerable way possible. This was the moment where everything should have come together, where love should have felt stronger than ever, where support should have been undeniable.
Well, it's, to me, hurtful to see anybody have to go through that, because you don't wish that on anybody.
You wish that it's just, more levels of success.
And in many ways, Maurice tried. But trying and understanding are not the same thing. While Kimmi was fighting physically, emotionally, and mentally, she needed more than just presence. She needed connection. She needed softness. She needed to feel seen. And that's where things began to fall apart. Because while she was going through one of the hardest times of her life, there were moments where she felt alone. Moments where the emotional support she needed just wasn't there in the way she hoped. It wasn't loud, it wasn't explosive, it was subtle, quiet, the kind of pain that doesn't make headlines but slowly breaks you from the inside. And that kind of pain, it lingers, even after the situation changes, even after the crisis passes, even after life starts to look normal again. Because once you feel alone in a moment where you needed someone the most, something inside you shifts. And for Kimmi, that shift never fully went away. But here's the twist. From the outside, things still looked okay. They smiled, they showed up, they continued living their lives like nothing had changed. And maybe they even tried to believe that themselves. But inside, Kimmi was changing. She started seeing things differently, feeling things more deeply, questioning things she once ignored. And instead of speaking loudly about it, she went quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that comes when someone is thinking, processing, deciding. Because when a strong woman goes quiet, it's not weakness, it's preparation. And while Kimmi was going through that internal transformation, Maurice didn't fully realize what was happening. To him, things were fixable, temporary, something that could be worked through with time. He didn't see that time was exactly what was running out. Then came the moment that changed everything.
The hardest thing
What?
of the whole thing
What?
is making a phone call to you. I know you're my life partner and you're my love, but at the end of the day, that's a phone call I never thought I'd have to make.
The conversations became more serious, less about fixing, more about understanding, less about hope, more about truth. And that's when Kimmi made her decision. She was done. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of clarity. She had reached a point where staying felt heavier than leaving, where holding on felt more painful than letting go. And once someone reaches that point, there's no going back. But what nobody expected was Maurice's reaction. At first, it was disbelief. He couldn't understand how things had gotten to this point. In his mind, they were still working through things, still trying, still together. But when the reality hit, it hit hard. And suddenly, the man who always seemed so controlled, so focused, so composed, began to unravel. People close to him started noticing the change. The late-night messages, the constant attempts to reach her, the emotional conversations that came too late.
He was trying to fix it, trying to say the right things, do the right things, be the man she needed. But the problem was, Kimmi had needed that version of him a long time ago. And now she was already gone emotionally. Fans were shocked watching this unfold because Maurice wasn't reacting like someone protecting his image. He was reacting like someone who had just realized what he lost. There were moments where his emotions became impossible to hide, moments where his voice carried regret, confusion, and something deeper, guilt. Not the kind you say out loud, the kind you feel when you finally understand the impact of your actions. And that's what made this situation so heavy. It wasn't just a breakup, it was a realization that love isn't just about being there physically, it's about showing up emotionally, consistently, and intentionally. And for Maurice, that realization came at the worst possible time, after it was already too late. Meanwhile, Kimmi remained calm. No dramatic statements, no public breakdowns, no back and forth. Just peace. And that silence spoke louder than anything she could have said. Because when someone walks away quietly, it usually means they've already done all the talking, all the crying, all the trying, long before anyone noticed. That's what made this so emotional for fans. They weren't just watching a relationship end, they were watching a woman choose herself after years of choosing everyone else. And that kind of moment hits differently. People started sharing their own stories, their own experiences of staying too long, giving too much, and finally deciding to walk away. Because Kimmi's situation wasn't just hers anymore. It became something bigger, a reminder that strength isn't just about holding things together. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let go. Maurice, on the other hand, is now left with the reality of everything. The memories, the regrets, the questions that don't have answers. And the hardest part, knowing that he can see everything clearly now, but didn't see it when it mattered most. There's a certain kind of pain that comes with that. The kind that doesn't come from losing someone suddenly, but from realizing you slowly lost them over time and didn't stop it. And now, all he can do is reflect. Think about the moments he could have shown up differently, the times he could have listened more, been more present, more aware. Because in the end, it's not always the big mistakes that break a relationship. Sometimes it's the small, repeated moments of absence, the missed conversations, the emotional distance, the feeling of being alone while standing right next to someone. And for Kimmi, those moments added up until there was nothing left to hold on to. Now, as everything settles, the question isn't whether Maurice wants her back, it's whether Kimmi even wants to be back. And right now, all signs point to no. She's choosing peace. She's choosing herself. And for the first time in a long time, she's not looking back. Because sometimes the most powerful decision you can make is the one that protects your peace, even if it breaks your heart in the process. This story isn't just about love falling apart, it's about what happens when someone finally reaches their limit, when they stop waiting, stop hoping, stop believing that things will change, and instead they choose a different path, a path that might be uncertain but feels lighter, a path that might be lonely at first but is filled with self-respect. And maybe that's the real lesson here, that love, no matter how strong, can't survive without effort from both sides, that silence can sometimes be louder than words, and that walking away doesn't always mean giving up. Sometimes it means finally choosing yourself. So now the question remains, is this truly the end for Kimmi and Maurice? Or is this one of those moments where loss becomes the lesson that changes everything? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, Kimmi didn't just end a relationship, she started a new chapter, and this time, she's writing it for herself.